My name is Tim Lee. I present a weekly show on Redshift Radio called the Doorstep Mixtape. And I've been doing it for about 6 months, so I'm still a bit of a beginner. But I thought I'd make you a quick video about the process of putting together a show, really, all the sort of planning and the things that go into making a show, a bit of a behind-the-scenes tour of the Doorstep Mixtape. So, yeah, I'm going to take you through it and how it's done. So I hope you enjoy this video. Okay, so the first thing I always do is refer to a little note that I have on my phone, which reminds me of all the things I need to do for the show. So here it is. So first thing, obviously, I need to put the date. So the date for next week's show is the 8th of March, 2018. And yeah, what I didn't say in the introduction before was that this is actually early Friday morning, and I did my last show for this week, or last week, last night. So I've had about 5 hours sleep, 4 or 5 hours sleep, probably not firing on all cylinders, so apologies if I make some mistakes. But the first thing I need to do is actually for the last show, which is to make a YouTube video of my guest. So every guest that comes in plays a few songs, and I pick my favourite to upload to my YouTube channel. Upload it. Okay, it's ready to publish. So I'll copy the link. Link him in. And that's the first step done. Okay, so we can go back into our note. And tick the first one off. Okay, the next thing I need to do is double check the artist for this week. So that is a wonderful Wigan band called the Huers. So I get in touch via Facebook usually, sometimes email, and ask them to, well, tell them a few bits of information about the show, how to get there, my phone number, things like that, so they can get in touch, and give them a little bit of information about the night, so what they need to bring with them, what the content's going to be. And I ask each guest that comes in to pick 2 songs, one that they couldn't live without, kind of like a Desert Island Discs kind of thing, and one song from a favourite local artist, which is kind of keeping the chain going, really, trying to get local artists to listen to each other and support each other. So Ian's got back to me and said he's fine for the night, he's fine for the time, and he's fine with all the details. I just need to hear back from them about the songs that they're going to pick. So we can tick that one off as well. So now comes the really fun bit. I get to choose the songs that I'm going to have on the show, and it's a bit of a mix, the show. The first hour is just songs from, from the 50s till now, a bit of a mixtape, as the title suggests, and the second half is where I have the interview with the local artist who comes in to play some tunes and talk about their music. So the first thing I need to do is to choose some songs for that first hour. So I go into my iTunes, and throughout the week, if I've heard a song that I like or something spurs my interest, then I'll put it into my playlist for that week. So if we go into my playlists, it's got all these different radio show ones, and we're looking for the 8th of March, there it is. So apart from the ones I'm waiting on the artists to pick, I've chosen my songs now, so I can say that's done as well. Okay, and from that I can come up with my itinerary, or I can at least start it. So I find the easiest way to do it is to open up last week's itinerary and just basically change the bits that need changing. So obviously the date needs changing. and the artist. So at this point I'll go back into my playlist and work out what songs I'm going to play and in what order. At this point as well, once I've finished putting the tracks on of the itinerary, I'll start to write some sort of rough questions. I like to try and keep it fairly laid back, but I write some questions anyway to kind of make sure that we've got things that we can talk about in case the conversation dries up. So I've done a little bit of research, and I always ask each guest that comes in, people who it started to influence them when they first got into music. Obviously they've got a new album out, talk about the songs they're working on now. There's quite a lot of interesting instruments that this particular duo use, so I'll be asking them about that. And they also put on some concerts in Wigan and work with the company Bose on sound equipment as well. So there's some interesting things, tangents we can go off there, as well as their song choices, and leaving space for their songs that they're going to hopefully do live. So we're doing pretty well here. We've got we've chosen the songs, we've got the itinerary. So the next thing to do is to actually record the songs off my playlist into my computer. And I'm never quite sure what songs are going to be on the system. So just to be on the safe side, I record the whole playlist into Audacity, and then split it up, and then use what I need and lose what I don't. So here I am recording from my phone straight into Audacity, which I'm going to split up later after the whole playlist is finished. Okay, at the end here we have our full 45 minutes or so of music. So I'm going to split this up into individual tracks now. So I find the part of the song that I need. So here's one song out of the playlist, and I'm going to cut that, open a new project, and paste it in, ready for editing. Let's take the first part off, normalize it, so again we're making the sound a lot louder, and then I'm going to amplify it as well. Just so it sounds nice and loud when it's on the radio. And I'm going to do a fade out at the end as well, just to neaten it up a little bit. And then when I'm happy with that, I'm going to export it, and I'm going to save it into the folder for this week's show, which you'll notice when I open it, there's different folders for different decades, and it'll become apparent when I put them into the system at the radio show why I do this. It makes life a lot easier. So this particular song was from the 90s, so I'm going to save it in that folder. And that's basically what I do with all the songs now. I won't bore you with the whole lot, but that's what I need to do for the other 10 or so songs that I'm going to put on the show. Okay, so we've got quite far today. So we've made the YouTube video, we've double checked the artists, we've chosen the songs, we've done the itinerary, we've recorded the songs, and now I've split the songs as well. So I'm going to leave it there for today and come back to it over the weekend when I need to add the postbox track, which is like a local artist track, and hopefully get the artist's choices of songs as well. And then next week I can, early next week hopefully, I'll put them onto my pen drive and get them all ready, and then start to advertise the different segments of the show on Facebook and places like that to get people interested in the show before next Thursday. Saturday now, and I've done quite a big lump of the work and the prep for the show, but I'm now going to do the second bit, which is to get the special features all ready. So all the segments that need filling really, and changing each week. So most of that I can do on my phone, so I'll show you how I do that now. Of the week is the Birthday 3 Mystery, which is like a weekly quiz where I ask listeners to work out a famous person that has their birthday that week by following the clues. So the way that I do that, I usually go on Instagram. There's a couple of good Instagrammers, if that's a word, who have different celebrity birthdays each day. So that's quite a good place to start to try and pick my person for the week. Let's go. You see, I've already used it before. What celebrities? So it's a good place to choose from. But I'm quite lucky this week. Oh, there we are. Because I who was born on the 2nd of March. So he's going to be the one that I'm going to pick. So I'm going to put that into here. And then I need to make the quiz. So I need to find sort of a generic picture of birthdays. And then to make it look a bit more like a mystery, as it were, I use this program called Snapseed, which adds like a kind of blurring effect. Kind of the birthday mystery thing. So let's save that, export it. Birthday 3 Mystery clues on. So let's find that. I'm sure lots of people will get this one. The artist of the week, so obviously this is the most important bit really, and to advertise the show at the same time. So the artist of this week is the wonderful Wigan band the Huers. So I need to find a picture of them first. So go back into Facebook, and obviously I like the band really, and the main reason for that is because I'm always so nervous when that red light goes on. Once I've done the first link, I can kind of settle down into the show. So just for that first link, I always have a bit of a script to go off. So at the moment it's set up for last week, so just need to change a few words again. Obviously this is a lot quicker. A sort of generic picture that I always put on of the show somewhere. Okay. And of course I need to link it in as well, so I'll try on that. On a classic album that I'm going to review and play a song from, and this week I've decided on Funky Kingston by Toots and the Maytals. Great reggae album, reggae soul album. Now sometimes if I've got time, I'll write a bit of a blog post about the album to share and get people interested in it, but probably don't have time this week, so I'm going to just post a tune from it. Okay. Facebook, but it's basically I ask people, local musicians, to send in their tracks and new music to me, and I pick one each week to play. I've cheated slightly this week because I've been listening to an album by a fantastic singer-songwriter called Hannah White, who is not local. She's from London, but it was produced by local producer, very famous Nigel Stonier.
who some of you might know is married to Thea Gilmore, who is probably the the most famous local person. So that's the sort of local link. But yeah, I've loved the album that Hannah's just brought out, so I'm going to play a tune from that. And that's already added to the playlist, so that's sorted. Okay, and then the last thing to do is basically to ask the artist that's coming in for their song choices. And Ian has got back to me now, so from the Huers. So on Monday night, I'll be just after work, I'll be adding those tracks. A good time as any to leave this segment here.
Okay, so now it's Monday evening, and if I'm looking a little bit worse for wear, or certainly sounding it, it's because it's just after work. Work's just finished after a long Monday. But it's just enough time before I head home to get the last couple of bits hopefully done on this week's radio show. So all that involves now, hopefully, is getting the artist song choices onto the plan. Okay, so here's a nice helpful email from Ian from the band the Huers, and he's very succinctly put what songs they'd like. So we've got this one for local artist, and this one two for the songs they couldn't live without. So the idea now, I mean, I could play them from my phone straight into the computer, but it's going to be a lot easier to find them online. So I tend to find these on YouTube and then go to like a YouTube converter, which I wouldn't suggest you do, because obviously it's taking music, but I think for the purposes of a radio show it's okay, because obviously it's all copyright free. And as Ian's also given me lots of information, I'm going to copy and paste that actually and put it into my itinerary, so I can read it out on the night, which should be very useful. And now that's ready to go on the pen drive. Just double check everything's there. And then print this off. And as you can hear, that's printing off now, and that's it for the prep for the show. Hopefully I've not forgotten anything. I might have done, but hopefully not. And now it's just over to Thursday night when we actually start putting the show into the system, and then it's rock and roll. It's time to go. So I hope you've enjoyed it so far, and now it's time for the show itself.
Okay, it's Thursday night, the big night, the night of the show, and I've just got home from work about 6 o'clock, just before 6 o'clock, and very quick turnaround now to get changed, grab some tea, and then back out to the radio studio to set up the show. So I've arrived at the station. It's about 7:15, so I need to get my act together, get in there and start setting up the show. Let's get into Redshift and start making the Doorstep Mixtape for real. And here we are. This is the Redshift hub. This is where it all happens. I have no idea if this is in focus or not. So I've arrived at the studio. I'm having to whisper because obviously there's a show going on before me. The Big Bang Query, great science-based show. And here we have where I put it all together. We've got two screens here. This is a program called Myriad where I put together the show. So as you can see, it's already got the Doorstep Mixtape on there. If not, what I usually do is you go to and you can actually go to the specific time that you need on the day of where your show's going to be. So there we are. And what my production manager Steve always does is he fills the show, just in case I'm not in or something happens or whatever. So he fills it so that it makes up the time. But so obviously I am here, so the first thing I need to do is get rid of all these blocks that I don't need. So all these kind of random songs, I'll be taking those out. There we go. So that's the first hour. The tracks taken out. So you've got different types of tracks here. You've got the jingles, which are usually yellow. You've got the actual main jingle for the show, which is green. And then you've got like these adverts, which obviously we're a charity, so we have to fund our our radio station by playing local business adverts. So that's one there. So that's the first hour done, so I'll just go ahead and do that with the second hour as well. And then the next thing I typically do is I'll go through my itinerary and search on the system to see which songs we already have, because the last thing I want to do, and I used to do this all the time, is to double up the tracks in the system. So I end up adding loads of extra duplicate tracks, so I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to look for all these tracks, see if they're there, and then I'll tick off the ones I've got and put a little dash by the ones I haven't, and then I can load them from my pen drive. Okay, so after about 20 minutes I've gone through all of my itinerary and searched up here to see what songs we've already got. So there's two ways of doing that. You can either go to find up here and type it in here. You have to make sure that this bit here, search within a range, is switched off, because otherwise it'll just be looking in the 70s or the 80s or whatever and might miss it. So as you can see here, this is the end of my show song, End of the Line by Roxy Music, so it's found that one. So at the top here you've got blocks of decades, which is really useful. So if I was looking for something from the 70s, for example, I could just click on that, and it's got all these blocks here, as I call them. They're actually called carts is the proper word, but yeah, these are all where all the songs go. I'll show you how to import some more songs in a minute. So over here I've got the basic setup now. I need to put a lot more songs into this of my show, the Doorstep Mixtape. So you've got your community highlights, a little bit there about the app that you can listen to, because it's an internet radio, so we try and encourage people to obviously listen online. Then you've got the jingle, then you've got the that's the tune I kind of talk over and do the introduction, a nice little sort of instrumental funky tune. Then we go into the songs. I put in a couple of carts of the how people can get in touch, so Facebook, Twitter and Redshift online, the website. Then we carry on with the songs. Then what I tend to do is I group all the adverts next. So Steve usually puts them throughout the show, but I like to kind of group them all together, get them out of the way really, because they're not my favourite bit of the show, but they are a necessary evil. So there's all the ones I try and do about 2 or 3 an hour, so not too much really, and there's 2 hours in the show. Then we've got like an instrumental where I do the weekly gig guide. Probably don't need that. Then I have my next weekly feature, which is On the Turntable, where I pick a classic album of the week, which this week is I haven't found yet, so I'm going to put that on, but there's a little bit of sort of crackling sound effect that I talk over. If you want to hear what these sound like before you put them on, by the way, which is very useful obviously, what you do is you pull it down to this empty preview thing here and just press play. I've got 2 on the mixing desk here. I've got the studio, so we can hear what they're saying on the
I thought you'd started talking before
on the show.
That was a bit of deja vu going on there.
And you've got the Myriad there. So if I wanted to listen to that, I'd obviously put the studio one down, put the Myriad one up, and I don't know if you can hear that. there's the crackle, so I know it's the right one. And then when you're finished, you press eject to make it stop. Then in the post box, which is a weekly feature where people send me in their music that they've made, and I give a little bit of a address here and how people can send in their stuff. So again, you've got some blocks to do that, and then you've got the birthday 3 mystery quiz with 3 songs by the artist, which Walk on the Wild Side is the only one that's on the system at the moment, so I'll get some more in a minute. And that's usually the end of the hour, so I don't need all of these. So if there's any carts that you don't need, you just basically take them and you put them in the trash. And the really useful thing that you do need to do is this total hour duration. So that tells you how long it is so far. So at the moment it's about 40 minutes. You want to leave about 10-15 minutes for talking. I'll see if I need to sacrifice any of the tunes once I've put the other songs in. And then you've got overrun, which is really useful as well. So that'll tell you if you've gone over the amount, which you don't want to do, obviously. And the next segue here, which says how long it is until the next cart comes up. So really useful things. And I'll show you how I do that use them in the show. Right then, I think it's time I should show you how I import things into the show. So first things first, of course, I've got my nicely labelled pen drive. Try and do this one-handed. So what I need to do now is I go to home. So I tend to do it all in decades. I don't know if you remember before, but I group them all into decades, which makes life a lot easier, because obviously that's where they need to go and that's where you'll find them. So let's start with the 50s. So what I do, right click, and I go to jump to the next empty cart. There we are. So that's now free for me to import a tune. So I click on that and we go to import audio. Import wizard. Import audio files. Find the pen drive. There we are. And this week. And you'll see I've already got them in the right ones there. So I'll start with the 50s. And then usually from memory I can work out which ones I need that aren't on there. So actually I don't actually need any of those. So if that's the case, you just go down to cancel. So now we can go to the 60s. Do the same again. Jump to the next cart. Import the audio. We do need some of these. We need Pale Blue Eyes, we need Pomp and Pride. That's it. Okay, so now we go to next, and that'll scan them all, and then they'll appear like this. A nice grey colour. So we go to finish. Okay, and now what I need to do with these is you right click and you go down to something called smooth edit. So I need to edit this now, and there's a few things that I need to do. I got a lot faster with this, but it took me a while to get my head around this. So it goes in the following order. Content type, you have to put this to music. I've discovered if you don't, then it doesn't work as well as you'd like it to, so you can't do fades and things like that. Okay, then you go to custom colors, and you have to make the background white and the text black. And that's just like what you do for each one basically, so they all look the same. Then you go to copyright and you click these 3 boxes, and hopefully if you've labelled it right, yep, it should come up how you've done it, so that's nice and easy. Then go to save, and there we are. Okay, so that I need to do that with all of them. Okay, so I've done all that now, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties and 10s, and one thing I can take complete credit for is that I introduced this local tab as well, which is really useful. Obviously it's got all the, because this is primarily a local radio show, or at least the second half is, so I've got them all organised here as well. So if I have any extra ones, as I do this week, I can go to jump to the next available cart. You can see this is mine because it's not as neat as the others. There we go. So we go, obviously do the same again. Exactly the same process. Go down into smooth edit. Make sure it's a music track. Sort the colours out. Sort the copyright. All the copyright details. Yep. Save. And we know that that one's sorted now. Do the same with the other one. And now I've got them all added in. I go back through my itinerary, look at all the ones that are missed, and make sure that I put them into the show. So I'll show you how I do that. So with this first one, I won't show all of them obviously. So we're looking for the Baser by the Pixies. So if I do that now, it should hopefully find it. There it is. So dead easy. You just grab that, put it over here, and it's dead easy to move carts around as well. You just click and drag them, and there we go. They put them all in the right order. So yeah, I'll do that with the rest of the ones I'm missing. Okay, so now we've got all the tracks and everything we need loaded into the show, hopefully, if I've remembered everything. So let's go back to the beginning of the show, and what I do now is these little green bits here, that basically means that one cart will automatically run into the other, but that always makes me very nervous, so I put in what are called stops after each cart. And you can decide which carts you want to stop and which you don't, but I tend to go through, and from there basically I do all of them as stops just to make life a lot easier, and then I can manually move them on myself. But one thing you should definitely do is at the end of 1 hour going into the other, you should definitely leave it, because later on you can go from live to auto fade, and it'll make it the right time, so you're not overrunning, which is very important, as I've discovered most of these things by doing the wrong thing. And hopefully learning from my mistakes. So do the same with the second hour. Now the second hour, you'll notice it's quite a bit shorter. At the moment it's only about 28 minutes, which is, again, I would say that's actually too long for the second half, because most of the second half will be taken up with me interviewing the Huers and you know, them playing their music. So we don't want a lot of extra stuff going on. And then again at the end, I want to leave that one on so that it's fading out nicely. So that's the show made. The nerves are starting to grow, as they always do at this point, and I would normally go off and have a little bit of a loo break. I'm not going to go into too much details, but a nervous loo break is always needed before every show. There's a bit of a definite behind the scenes there. But don't have time for that, as I've been making this video for you lot. So you see how I sacrifice myself? And we've got about just under rather, quarter of an hour until the show goes on. So at this point, I tend to take a picture of this, sort of quite an Instagrammy friendly shot, and then put it onto Facebook and Instagram, and trying to get people listening in. And that's it, guys. The show's all prepped, or hopefully I haven't forgotten anything too major. I've got my itinerary. I've got my little recorder thingy ready to record the guys in the studio, and I've got my trusty energy drink to hopefully turn me into an amazing radio presenter. So I'll hopefully video a little bit of the show as it goes on. But yeah, that's it for the prep. So thanks for joining me for that bit, and it's time to do the show itself. This is where I start getting really nervous, but also quite excited. So see you on the other side. Okay, we're actually into the studio now, and just turn that down so I don't get any copyright infringement. And yeah, let's turn it around and show you what we can see here. So there's the end of the last show, and it's in live mode, so that's all good. The faders are all down, that's also good. So the first thing I tend to do is I check my microphone signal. So I've got this little button here that's really useful. Click on that and you can see the levels that you're coming in at. 21 seconds left of the show itself, so it's now over to me. Wish me luck.
So that's the first link done. I did balls it up slightly. I think you're a bad influence on me behind the scenes video, because I was more worried about the behind the scenes video than actually getting it right. So I made the cardinal sin, which was leaving the music fader up when I was talking. So whether anyone actually heard that intro, I'll have to find out later. But yeah, we're on to some REM. Everything's going okay so far. So I need to find some information about this track, and the way I do that, I either know it myself. I often know little bits and bobs, but it also helps to look it up on the old faithful Wikipedia. Obviously I check all the notifications as well, and Facebook and things like that, to see who's getting in touch with the show. So that's my little computer for doing that, as well as the two main computers, one for finding songs and one for showing me where where it's all happening, all the blocks, etc. Very similar to the setup in the other room where I was back there. All right, so anyway, I'm going to stop waffling and get on to actually doing the show properly. So yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Here are the wonderful Huers, who've come all the way from Wigan.
Hello.
Down the treacherous M6 in Arctic conditions. So we have Phil and Ian, who've kindly decided to come down and play some tunes for us, with some very interesting instruments as well.
Yeah.
So they've spent ages tuning them, and I'm now going to ask them to come into the very warm studio and totally detune them. Yeah. This is the Redshift Green Room.
The Redshift Green.
Where all the mighty come, this is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The good and the great.
I've watched the young lovers push the strollers down my street, the shallow, the happy, the sad and the sweet. I thought I'd stick around for a month or so, and all of this is what I know. You don't need a lot of books, don't make you smart. You can kiss a lot of fools, don't mean you got a heart. You can walk a million miles, don't mean that you travel. You can make a perfect plan. See it all.
So how do you think that went, guys? We're at the end of the show now.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Oh, good.
You're right, Tim. It just absolutely flies by.
It did, didn't it? That time, definitely.
It did. It was. Yeah, it's just great, and you asked such great questions as well. It's like it's just a chat in a pub.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for coming down, guys. Really
Thank you.
appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Really enjoyed it.
And
Thanks for inviting us.
that's all right. Anytime. You'll have to come back as soon as you've done your new album.
We'll do.
Well, even before that, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the end of the show now. It's just ended, and the guys have just headed back to, well, Ian's going off to Wigan, and Phil's going off to the Wirral. And as always happens, I'm absolutely buzzing after the show. I absolutely love it. Before and during a show, I'm a nervous wreck, to be honest, pretty much. Certainly for the first half, where I'm putting on all the tracks, I tend to relax a little bit more into the interview part. And that was just fascinating, actually, tonight. Really good one with the guys from the Huers. So really, really interesting guys to talk to. So that obviously makes it a lot easier. But now the show is over. But it's not over for me. I've still got quite a lot of things to do to finish off the show. So I shall take you through the post-production of the show, if you will, all the things that I now need to do at the end of the night. I'm now on my own in the studio. It's quite scary. It's about, what time are we on? 22 minutes past 10, 22:22. So yes, but I've still got a long way to go yet. So better get cracking on with that. So the first thing I always do is to merge the 2 hours of the show into one program. So I use this quite convenient program here, Audio Convert Merge Free. So what I have to do here, add the files, find the sort of raw files, so they are in
the listen again. Where are they? There we are, that one, and one-handed, that one. So open those up, make sure they're in the right order, so you can see there at the end it shows what the date is, but also what time it is. So we've got 9 o'clock start and 8 o'clock start, so I need to swap those two around and merge it together. So we have to give it a name, so we put it in my 2018 programs. Here's all the programs we have on the thing, and we have the Doorstep Mixtape. Save. Now this bit takes forever, so this is why I always do this bit first. Although it seems like it's going fast, this will take a good 15 minutes or so to save. So while that's happening, I shall go and sort out the rest of the studio, shut everything down, and make everything ship shape and Bristol fashioned. Make it nice for the next people coming in. Studio number 1 there is nice and tidy now, and everything's how I would like to find it. So hopefully the next presenter will like it too. But yeah, it's still merging, I believe. Yep, still going. So that gives me time next to write up a little bit about the show itself and the full track listing as well, which is very important. So I'll use that now whilst I upload it for a little bit of details. We now go to the Mixcloud, Redshift Mixcloud, and upload that show. And while that's uploading, this is where we can copy and paste the whole thing. And we put in a few tags that people might find. So for this one, I'm going to put Redshift Radio, local music, community radio, and I might put Wigan in because these guys are from Wigan. So once that's ready, it's ready to go, ready to publish. So whilst that's uploading, it's given me time to just write a quick Instagram post using I always use an app called Boomerang, which is a quirky little thing that takes like a little animation of a few photos together. The sort of thing that looks fun now, but will probably look very dated very quickly. But that's just, yeah, and I've sent that to Facebook as well. Nice little after show bit of advertising there for the Huers and for the show. And hopefully, yep, it's ready to go now, 100%, and ready to publish. So publish that. And it gives me some places to share it. So these are the two main ones that I share it on, Twitter and Facebook. So for the Facebook one, I will basically do the entirety of this information, and then just link in people that are that got in touch with the show, the Huers themselves, competition winners and all that sort of thing, just to kind of really get more people on board in listening to the show before posting it. So it's 11 o'clock at night now. The show's in the can, as it were. It's been uploaded, promoted, linked in, and all the other various things you have to do. The studio's all tidy and left in a way that I would like to find it if I was the next presenter in, hopefully. So all I need to do now is the really scary bit, which is to shut off all the lights, lock up, and make my way through a very dark and scary car park on the way home. Okay, good morning. It's Friday, about quarter to 8 in the morning, and I'm off to work. But after finishing the show last night, I hope you have enjoyed this video from seeing a typical show, if there is such a thing, from inception to broadcast, and all the post-production and things that go on afterwards as well. The only thing left for me to do today is to listen back to the show so I can hopefully learn from my mistakes and make it even better next week. And then the process starts again, so I start planning for next week's show. So yeah, I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into what it's like putting a show together, and I hope it's influenced you, maybe spurred you on to maybe want to do your own radio show. And leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. If there's anything you'd like to see in a future show. And thanks very much for joining me.